Hello everyone and welcome back. In the last episode we were able to handle some few issues and let's continue from where we left off. So in this episode we will start off by fetching all users to the platform. So literally fetch available users so that you can start chatting with them. Then also we are going to implement the chat. So that's it. Let's get on to implementing this. Right, so back in here in our code, I've run the server and it's currently running. So here is what we have. So we can go ahead to sign in now. And everything seems to still be working. So before we actually delve into getting the users, I think it makes more sense to get the content for these current placeholders now. Right, so let's do that. So on our home page, here home page. So on the left side, so here is the content for the user, this particular content, and it's been handled by a component, this user avatar component. And all we want to do here is to pass the information of the logged in user. So let's quickly get this. So to be sure of the structure, let's console log the user detail at this point, so we are sure by getting it up to this point. Right, so that's console logged. Let's try and see what it looks like. So for now, we've not really defined a structure for this user avatar component. So I think let's explore the component itself. So basically what the component does is it abstracts this. So this image, then the name, then for some version. So because I have a version 2, the caption can be displayed under those. Okay, so all we can pass here actually includes the image, then the name and the caption. All right, so here is the log, and we need the first name and the last name, and that's actually the name as well as the profile picture. Right, so coming back to the home page, the home page actually here. So we can abstract the name. So name as a component, as an attribute rather. So we can get that by having this, then $user detail dot first name, then we have a space, $user detail dot last name. Right, then further we can get the profile picture. So profile picture equals user detail dot profile underscore picture. Alright, so we've sent this as a parameter now. All we need to do is to fill in. So we replace this with the profile picture. Okay, so now it's now going to be props dot profile picture. Then the name, that will be props dot name. Right, so let's quickly take a look at this. Right, so we got our content, and because the images are null, then it's showing an empty content. Right, so we can do away with the console log now. Alright, so back to the first highlight, which is to list out the registered user, the users you can chat with. So I would like to actually separate that as a component so that we can manage our things well. So I'll create a new component here. So user list. So users list or user list. Users lists. Alright. Then we quickly create the snippet RFCE. Okay, the name users list. Alright. Now all we can do here is we can quickly bring everything we have here. down here. Alright, then we import the users list here. So let's confirm that it was imported. Yeah, so here is it. So as we can see, since we pull out the search also, then we also need to just get this out of here and take it here. Then also the user main, let's import it. I think that's all. So we are no longer using the user main here. Okay, so let's quickly take a look and see that things are still as it should be. Alright, so that's still looking good. Okay. Right, so the next thing we want to do is to come down here, define our necessary variables on the user list. So the first variable we'll define will be the users. So set users, that's going to be use states. Not imported it yet, so we're going to do that. So it's going to be an empty list. So let's get the use states. Then we'll get use effect as well. I think that's all we need for now. So another variable we want to define is the fetching. So we need to know we are currently fetching or not. So set fetching. And by default, this is going to be true. Right. So the next now we can have the use effect. So it's going to be a single, like more like the component did mount. So the next thing we want to have is to define a function to get our user list. So let's define that. So get user list. So it's going to be an asynchronous function. Then inside here, we can now query our user. So let's have a temporary variable. So temp users equals to Asio's handler. So we await the Asio's handler. So we define the method. The method is going to be a get. The URL is going to be the profile URL. Then we send in the token. So that way we can tell if, so we can tell it to get the necessary users, ignoring the admin at us and the logged in user. So get token. Alright, so we cache in case there's an error. So we don't want to do anything with that error, so return null. Then based on our cache, we can check if there is users. So we only get users if there is no error. So let's console log the users for now. Alright, so if everything is okay, let's see if we get our content. Alright, so fail to load resource. I think that's the error there. So let's quickly reload it and see where the error comes from. So here is the error. Not enough segments. That's weird though. Alright, so our authorization was bad. So let's try and see where we are getting the issue from the authorization. Oh, okay. I think I know. So the get token is also an asynchronous request. So we can quickly get a temporary variable for that, which is token, then await it. Then we replace this with this. Right, so let's see if we have everything under control now. It looks like it. Alright, so our data is paginated, as we can see. So we have the next, the previous, and the count. And for now, we don't have any results. Okay, that makes sense actually. So the way we can do this, we can have another variable. So const and we can have this as current page or whatever. Actually, I think I don't want to go through that flow. So yeah, so let's say next page instead of current page. Set next page. So by default it's going to be 1. So use state is going to be 1. Yeah, and to implement this we can add an extra query parameter here. So we can say plus then page equals to next page. However, I'm guessing there will be an error here. So I think there will be an error, and the error is as a result of we not removing page from the query parameter while we are filtering the old contents. So this won't work. But however, what I want to actually do is with this defined, so as we get our results, if next actually exists, then we can just increment the next page. And on the implementation, as we scroll down, as we scroll to a particular point, then we can fetch more users if the user is getting closer to the bottom. So, but this will currently trigger an error. So let's see. Yeah, obviously. So the error was as a result of page not being part of the fields. So cannot resolve keyword page. Alright, so quickly, all I have to do on the back end is come down here on the user profile view, then data.pop. So we are popping the page keyword if it exists and none if it doesn't. Alright, so that's all we need to do, and that should resolve it. So we can run our tests, but I don't think it's necessary. It's okay. Alright, so we are back, and I think I've resolved that. So let's try and put it again. Yeah, we are getting back our content. So we have access to data and results. So let's come down here and actually make that check. So you can say if underscore users dot data then dot next. So that's the key. So data dot next, then we can just increment the next page. So we can have this as set next page equals to next page plus, or rather next page plus 1. I think that's more straightforward. Then the next one we can do is we can say set users equals to underscore users dot data dot results. Let's take a look again. Yeah, so if handled the next, then we specify the results, and finally we can set version to be false. Right, so that's all we need to do. And now on this part we only need one of these components, so let's remove the other ones. Then at first we want to check if it's fetching, so we can have the loading icon at that point. So fetching, then we have center, so let's have the center tag. Then we have the loader. And when we are done fetching, that means we have ourselves the users at that point. Then we can look through it. So users dot map. Then we get both the index and the item. So the first one should be the item, then the second one will be the index. So we want to return user main. Yeah, so first we need to specify a key, which is the index, as I. Then we can return the item. We'll get to that later. So if we go back to the content, we don't have anything showing. So let's reload to see. So at first we try to get, and later nothing shows up. So to actually give the user like an idea of what is going on here, we can literally return that you don't have any user to chat with. Okay, so what we can do before we actually map is to check if the list length is greater than 1 or not. So we remove this. Then we can say users dot length is greater than, or rather less than 1. Then we can return the content. Else we want to return this. So the content would be, let's just use a div, and here we can say you don't have any user to chat with. Right, so let's see how this looks like. So this is what it looks like. So that's black, that doesn't really match. So we can quickly give it a class and style it. So class name, let's just call it no user. Okay, then back to our style. I think we want to reduce the font a little. So no user, font size 14 pixel, then the color can have it as white. Right, so that makes more sense. So the user now sees that, okay, so this is the reason why nothing is showing here. Alright, so let's add a couple of users so that we have users to actually chat with. So I will open an incognito, or rather let me just log out of this and add new users. So sign up. So okay, username Steven, then email is Steven. So I want to just use emails that don't exist. So Steven at dev.ground. Then password, I have my password. Right, so that's registered. It looks like we have an issue currently. So it's filling in the last logged in user profile, and so let's trace this and see where this is coming from. Okay, I actually figured out. So the moment we log out, we should also remove the current logged in user data. So we need to set that. So, well, one way to handle this is we can just do a hard refresh or a total reload while we log out, or we can try to track all the stuff we've stored and set them back to empty or the initial value. So I think what I'll actually go with is the total reload. So I think that makes more sense. So window.href equals to the home page. So that way it's going to reload, and every content we've stored using the context will be removed. Right, so this has reloaded, and that's why we have this. So I think undefined is not really a good thing to have. So I think instead of having undefined here, we can literally undo that. So if we come back to the home page, so here we are trying to get the first name and last name. So instead we can say or empty. At this point I'm not certain if it's the single bar or the dual bar. So let's check and see. Okay, 0. So that's not the right. So I think it should be the dual bar. Right, so I think that makes more sense now. Okay, so now we can fill in our information. So the first name is Steven Jones. Then let me just have it as okay, this is cool. Alright, so let's update. So after updating we can close and everything seems okay. However, we've updated, so I think I actually omitted this. So the moment we update our profile, we are meant to update the context user, so that way it's going to automatically show it here. So let's quickly undo that so that for our next user we can literally see the view. So come back here on the home components. So profile modal. So this is submit. So we got the profile data at this point. So let's quickly see what it looks like. Console profile data. So this is literally what we want to do. We just replace the current user detail with this. So that means we are going to need access to a dispatch. So we can also get it from here. We really no need to pass it from the home page, or we can just pass it from the home page, whichever way. But I'll get it from here. So we have it as const dispatch equals to use contests, then store. Okay, so let's see that we get everything we need. Okay, so we got it. So next, after getting this, we can then dispatch it. So dispatch, so the type is going to set or user detail. Let's check. So actions, so user detail action. Okay, user detail action, then the payload. So the payload is going to be the profile data. Okay, right. So that's what we want to have, and hopefully that should have resolved that. So we have the name after that's reloaded, and so let's test with a new user. So before we do that, so let's get the content, because as you can see, it's seeing the user we have at this point. So let's replace it with the necessary content. So if you go back to our user list, so we can print out the users we have. So we can see the structure. So at some point it was empty, but later got content. So this is the structure of what we have. So user, then I think we have a meta at some point. Okay, message count. Okay, we didn't have that a meta, but message count. Okay, so this is all we need. So the first name, the last name, the caption. I think everything actually lies within the profile section. So our user main can take in exactly what the user avatar is taking. So let's have it as name equals to props dot name, then profile picture equals to props dot profile picture, then caption equals to props dot caption. Right, so let's just copy everything here and replace on the user main side. So back to the user main. So the name is going to be what we have on our home page. So let's copy this. We don't need to invent the wheel. All we just need to do is replace this with item, replace the user detail with item, because that's the item itself. Then we need the profile picture. So this will be item.profile underscore picture. So that's what is coming from the data. And also item.caption. Okay, so that's it. So let's see what this looks like. So we got the name, we got the name, we got the profile picture, but not the caption. And to resolve that, we just come back to the home components, user avatar, then replace this with caption if it exists. So that will be props.caption. Right? So that's working now. So back to the user lists. So the count. So I think that's on the home component. So we only want to set this count if we have props.count or it's greater than 0. So props.count or props.count is greater than 0, then you can show this. I want to show the count. Alright, so we have that. So now we can send in the count. So count equals to props dot. So the count is actually message count. Okay, props is not defined. Where is that coming from? Okay, so this should be item and not props. Alright, so as you can see, that didn't show anything. And that has resolved what we have here. So the next thing we want to do is to actually be able to click on a user and start chatting with the user. So based on that, we are going to need an active, so something to show that this is the current user we are on, and we can start chatting. So I think the active can stay for now. Let's just fix the chatting flow, and we don't need a user list console logged again, so let's just remove it. Right, so now we can go back to so let's add one more user. I think that was the plan. So this guy can log out. Okay, for some reason it looks like what we defined for our logout is not working. Oh, okay, so this is windows.location.href. I don't know why I'm missing so much today. Right, so that's resolved now, and based on that, we might not really need the props for the logout again. We can clear that later on. Don't know that's an issue now. Okay, so we've logged out. Let's just remove this and create a new user. So ben at dev.com, then my password. Right, so Ben's account has been created, and Ben needs to update his profile. So let's do that. So Ben Dennison. So I'm Ben. Nice to meet. Yeah. Then about me, you can still use the same caption. Alright, so based on the fact that we updated the context, we got the content showed here immediately after the updates. Alright, so every other thing looks okay. So we have the list of users we can chat with, and I think the next thing now is to actually implement the chats. Alright, so we'll stop here, and in the next one we are going to focus more on implementing the chat. Alright guys, see you in the next episode, and bye.